I was never the kind of person who believed in ghost stories. I grew up hearing the old folks talk about places where souls don't rest, but I always thought that was just something people said when they had nothing better to do. At least until that night. The road was long, deserted, cutting through the heart of a forest that seemed endless. The trees leaned over the asphalt, as if trying to swallow anyone who dared to pass. The wind moved through the branches, creating a deep, almost human sound, a moan that blended with the car's steady hum. There were 5 of us in the car. I was driving. Lara sat in the passenger seat, her messy bun swaying as she stared out the window. In the back, Daniel and Rick argued about which song to play while Julia laughed, reminding them it didn't matter, the radio had been nothing but static since we'd entered the road. We decided to take that adventure after a long week of classes and exams. The idea was to explore a stretch of forest that was rumored to be haunted. People at school talked about ghostly figures crossing the road, voices calling from the trees. I used to laugh at all of that. But that night, as the fuel gauge dropped and the cell signal vanished, I started to wonder if maybe something really was out there, something that didn't want to be disturbed. The first strange thing happened around 9. The fog came out of nowhere, thick and milky, swallowing the windshield as if the world had disappeared beyond it. I slowed down, trying to see more than a meter ahead. The headlights seemed useless in that white curtain. Jhony, maybe we should turn back, Lara said, her voice tight. Relax, it's just fog, I said, forcing a smile. But the air had changed. The smell of damp earth was replaced by something heavier, wet wood and decay. Then came the sound, a sharp crack, like branches snapping right beside us. Daniel pressed his face to the glass. Did you guys hear that? The sound came again, closer. Then another. And another. Until something scraped along the side of the car, a metallic screech that made everyone freeze. I hit the brakes. Silence filled the car. Only the low idle of the engine and the nervous tick of the hazard lights. It was a branch, I muttered, though I didn't believe it. Rick opened his door before I could stop him. I'll check it out. Dude, no. Julia yelled, but he was already outside. The headlights cut through the fog, revealing the empty road and the still trees watching from the dark. Rick took a few steps and vanished into the whiteness. Rick! I shouted, stepping out too. The cold air wrapped around me. The forest was too quiet, like the world had stopped breathing. I walked forward until I saw him, standing still in the mist, staring at something I couldn't see. What is it? I asked. He didn't answer. He just lifted his arm and pointed toward the edge of the road. I followed his gaze. There, between the trees, stood a figure. Tall, thin, wearing dark clothes that blended with the shadows. The face. I can't describe it. It was covered by something translucent, a gray film that rippled with the wind. My heart pounded unevenly. A low sound came from the figure, a whisper, or maybe a sob. Then it moved. I ran back to the car, pulling Rick with me. Lara was crying. Julia had both hands over her mouth. Daniel shouted for me to start the engine. As I hit the gas, the figure vanished into the fog, but the sound lingered, a long, distant moan, echoing from all directions. We drove in silence for several minutes, until the radio, without anyone touching it, turned on by itself. The static shifted to a faint female voice, whispering words that sounded like our names. I switched it off. The silence that followed was heavier than before. This can't be real, Lara murmured. No one replied. The road stretched endlessly ahead. The streetlights were gone, the asphalt covered in leaves and roots, as if no one had driven there for years. The dashboard clock read midnight when I realized something strange. We'd been driving for hours, and hadn't left that same stretch of road. By then, fear wasn't just a feeling. It was a presence, something in the car with us, unseen, breathing in rhythm with our own. And it was there, on that forgotten road, that everything truly began. I remember the exact moment I realized we were trapped. The GPS showed no route, just a trembling gray line across the screen, like the device itself was afraid to be there. The dashboard clock flickered random numbers, and the fuel gauge swung between full and empty every few seconds. Daniel tried to joke, saying it was the ghosts messing with us, but his laugh sounded thin and nervous. No one replied. Even the air inside the car felt too heavy to carry any sound other than our own anxious breathing. The road stretched ahead like an endless ribbon, framed by the dense forest leaning over us. The fog, once just a thin veil, now seemed alive. It drifted slowly against the wind, wrapping around the car like fingers searching for a way in. Lara was pale. She clutched my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin. "Jhony," she whispered. "I saw it again." "What?" "That thing. Outside. It's following us." I swallowed hard, keeping my eyes on the road. In the rearview mirror, for a split second, I thought I saw something moving between the trees, a tall, thin shape keeping pace with us. The engine began to sputter. The car lost power, choking, as if the very air was being drained from it. I pressed the gas, but the pedal felt stuck. "Don't stop now," I muttered. The lights flickered. The radio turned on by itself again, filled with crackles and whispers. Between the static, a faint laugh, soft, distant, echoing like it came from underground. "Is this really happening?" Julia asked, tears welling in her eyes. "Close the windows." Daniel shouted. "Close everything." I did. But the sound wasn't coming from outside. It was inside. A low, almost inaudible hum vibrated through the dashboard, the doors, the seats. Like something was trying to speak through the car itself. Then, the engine died. The silence that followed was unbearable. Not even the insects made a sound. Only the faint breathing of the forest. The headlights showed the road ahead, and something lying in the middle of it. A small, dark shape. Still. Daniel leaned forward. "What is that?" The fog parted slightly, revealing the outline. It was a doll. A rag doll, dirty and torn, one button eye missing. It lay flat on the asphalt, facing us. "This is getting too weird," Rick said nervously. "Let's just back up and get out of here." But when I looked in the mirror, the blood drained from my face. Behind us, the fog was just as thick, and there, a few meters away, another doll. Identical. "There's another one," I whispered. Lara's breathing grew fast and shallow. "They're closing us in." Her words sounded insane, but they made sense. The road was blocked by those lifeless figures, as if someone, or something, had trapped us on purpose. Suddenly, the headlights flickered and went out. Lara screamed. Julia started praying under her breath. I fumbled with the dashboard, trying to get any light, until a faint blue glow appeared outside. It wasn't from the car. It was a cold, pulsating light, coming from the forest. We all stared. None of us could move. The light floated between the trees, growing brighter, until we could see something inside it, a human shape, distorted, its limbs bent at impossible angles. "Jhony," Daniel whispered. "What is that?" I couldn't answer. The figure was moving closer, silently, without steps. The light around it flickered, and each time it did, the thing seemed to jump forward, closer, clearer. We could see its face now, or what should have been a face. Pale, eyeless, with two deep hollows. The mouth was a dark slit, motionless. The thing stopped in front of the car. Then, something impossible happened. The windshield began to fog up, from the inside, forming words, as if written by invisible hands, "You shouldn't have come." The radio erupted with static, loud and piercing. The doors locked by themselves. The steering wheel moved, and the car started to roll, slowly, on its own, as if guided by unseen hands. Lara screamed my name, but I couldn't move. Fear had frozen me. I knew that if I turned my head, I'd see faces watching us from the darkness. The road began to change. The trees twisted, bending inward. It felt like the forest was swallowing us whole. Then, the blue light vanished. Darkness again. And suddenly, the car stopped with a jolt. The engine roared back to life, as if nothing had happened. The dashboard lit up, and the GPS returned, showing a red line pointing forward, as if telling us to keep going. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Julia whispered, her voice trembling, "What if that's exactly what they want?" That red line on the GPS looked like an invitation. A trap disguised as direction. I didn't want to follow it, but the car seemed to have a will of its own. The steering wheel was stiff, almost locked, and even when I let go, it kept turning slightly, guided by some unseen force. "This isn't normal," Lara whispered. "Jhony, please stop the car." But I already had. The brake pedal was solid, useless. The speedometer hovered at 30 even though my foot wasn't on the gas. The forest around us seemed to move along. The trees multiplied, mirroring each other, giving the illusion we were driving through the same stretch again and again. The headlights revealed faces carved in bark, or at least, shapes that looked like them, as if the forest itself was watching. The radio came alive again, humming a low, static-filled tone mixed with faint whispers that seemed to curl inside my head. Then, suddenly, a voice broke through, clearer this time, "Jhony." Every hair on my body stood on end. "Did you guys hear that?" I asked, pretending to sound calm. Lara nodded, eyes wide. Daniel shook his head, pale. "Someone's messing with us," he said, though his voice trembled. But no one laughed. The road widened slightly, revealing a small, run-down truck stop on the right, a wooden shack covered in moss. A crooked sign still hung from a rusted pole, its faded letters unreadable. The car slowed by itself and stopped. The engine went silent. For a moment, none of us moved. "I'm not staying in here," Julia said, pushing her door open. "Wait." I shouted, but she was already outside. The fog was thicker there. The wooden structure groaned softly as if the wind was pushing through its cracks. The moonlight filtered through the clouds, tinting everything in pale blue. Julia took a few steps forward. "Hello? Anyone here?" she called. Her voice sounded small, swallowed by the air. No answer. I got out, followed by Rick and Daniel. Lara stayed in the car, quietly sobbing. The air smelled of rust and damp wood. The ground was carpeted with dead leaves and old tire marks. A truck sat abandoned in the corner, its frame tangled with roots and ivy. I approached the front door. It was slightly ajar. I pushed it gently. It creaked open, long and slow, as if something sleeping inside didn't want to be disturbed. The interior was dark. Only a sliver of moonlight cut through a broken window, revealing floating dust. On the counter sat an overturned cup, a torn menu, and an old radio coated in cobwebs. "Dude," Rick murmured. "It looks like someone left just yesterday." But the floor was too clean. No thick dust, no debris. It looked used. Daniel crouched down, touching the ground. "It's warm," he said. "Like someone was just here." A sharp crack came from the back room. We all turned. There was a door, closed. From behind it came a slow, steady tapping. Talk, talk, talk. Julia gripped my arm. "Don't go in there, please." But I did. The tapping continued. I grabbed the doorknob. It was cold. I turned it slowly and pushed the door open. The room was small, a storage space. It smelled of mold and gasoline. In the corner stood a cracked mirror reflecting our distorted faces. But what caught my attention were the marks on the floor, circular, raised, like footprints, but inverted. Instead of sinking into the floor, they bulged out, as if something had pressed from beneath. Rick knelt. "That doesn't make sense." Before I could reply, the old radio on the counter came alive. The static filled the air, followed by that same soft, distant voice, "Jhony, you came back." The air grew colder. Dead light bulbs flickered once, twice. The back door slammed shut by itself. Julia screamed. Daniel ran to her, pulling the handle, but it wouldn't move. Then the sound changed. From the radio came a faint child's laugh, echoing through the room. And beneath it, footsteps. Small, quick ones, crossing the wooden floor behind us. Lara's scream cut through the night from outside the car. "Jhony, get out. Now." We bolted. The outside air felt lighter, but the silence was worse. The car engine was running again, and Lara was pointing at the rearview mirror, panic in her eyes. "There was someone in the back seat," she said. "I swear, Jhony. A face, watching me." I looked. Nothing. Empty seats. But the central mirror was fogged again, and on the glass, in trembling letters, it read, "We're still here." No one spoke for several seconds. The sound of the engine was the only proof time still existed. I stared at the mirror, waiting for the words to fade, but they stayed there, trembling, wet, as if written with someone's breath from the other side. "This is all in our heads," Daniel said, his voice cracking. "We're just freaking ourselves out." "Then explain the radio," Rick snapped. "Explain the car moving on its own. Explain the dolls." "Stop it," I said. "Fighting won't help. We just need to get out of here." I put the car in drive, and it responded as if nothing had happened. The road ahead was narrower now. The trees leaned closer, forming a tunnel that swallowed the headlights whole. The fog had thinned, but the sky was pitch black. No moon, no stars. Just that thick, endless dark, as if the world had ended and we were driving through whatever was left. Lara stared out the window. The tears on her face had dried, but her eyes were wide, fixed on something unseen. "Jhony," she whispered. "Do you notice it?" "Notice what?" "There's no sound. None. Not even wind or insects." She was right. The silence was absolute. The hum of the engine felt wrong, intrusive. It was a silence that didn't belong to the world of the living. Then, suddenly, the radio turned on again. This time, not static. Music. An old tune, fragile and slow, a piano melody I recognized, Blue Moon. But it was off-tempo, dragging, as if played underwater. "Turn it off," Lara shouted. I slammed the buttons, but the volume grew louder. The singer's voice distorted, melting into something inhuman, half laughter, half sobbing. Then, the lights flickered. The dashboard went dark. The engine died. We were swallowed by darkness. Julia started to sob. Rick held her shoulder, though his own hands were shaking. Daniel's breathing quickened as he scanned the trees, expecting something to emerge. Then came the sound. At first faint. Then closer. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Along the edge of the road. Lara squeezed my hand. "Please, tell me that's an animal." I didn't answer. Because I knew it wasn't. The steps reached the side of the car. Stopped. Right beside Julia's window. She cried silently. Then the glass fogged, from the outside, and a handprint appeared. Long, thin fingers pressing gently against the glass. Julia screamed, jerking back. Rick pulled at the opposite door, but it wouldn't open. The handprint faded. Silence returned. But when I looked into the rearview mirror, I froze. Something was standing on the road behind us. Tall. Thin. The same figure as before, the face veiled in that shifting gray film. But now, it wasn't alone. Shapes emerged from the mist, one by one. Men. Women. Children. All standing still, side by side, blocking the road. "Oh God," Lara whispered. "They're coming." The dashboard lights flickered back to life. The speedometer climbed to 40. The car began to move again, by itself. "Jhony, stop it." Daniel yelled. I couldn't. The pedals were locked. The steering wheel resisted my hands. The road seemed to close in. Trees, faces, shadows, all merging into a corridor of darkness. The air inside grew cold. Our breaths came out in visible clouds. The figures followed, walking in perfect rhythm, never closer, never farther, as if escorting us. Then, up ahead, a glow. A sign. Old and rusted. The letters crooked but legible as we passed, exit, 2 kilometers. Hope flickered through the car. Julia prayed out loud. Daniel whispered that we were almost there. But as we drove, the dashboard display changed. The number didn't drop. Exit, 2 kilometers. Exit, 2 kilometers. Again. And again. It was the same stretch of road. "We're going in circles," I whispered. No one answered. Despair filled the car like a weight. The radio hissed. A cold, distant voice spoke, clear and sharp, "You will never leave." The headlights flashed. For an instant, the road ahead shifted. The asphalt split open like torn flesh, revealing something dark and pulsing beneath, alive. The car jolted. Lara screamed. Julia hit the seat. And then, everything went black. No sound. No light. No world. We were trapped in the dark, and I swear I heard voices. So many voices. Whispering. Calling our names. Laughing. Crying. As if they had been waiting for us, for a very long time. When I opened my eyes, I saw nothing. No trace of light, no sound. Only my own breathing, short, uneven. The steering wheel was still under my hands, but it felt cold, like metal buried in the ground. "Lara!" I called. Nothing. I reached out and felt the damp fabric of her jacket. She was there, still, silent. "Lara!" A low moan answered, and relief hit me like a shock. "Jhony, where are we?" Her voice sounded distant, sleepy. I didn't know. I touched the dashboard, cold and dead. The windshield northwest longer showed the road or the sky. It was as if we were surrounded by a fog too thick to see through, a fog that moved, breathed. Then came a dull thud from the roof. Then another. And another. Something was walking over the car. Julia woke up screaming, and Daniel held her. Rick tried to turn on his phone, but the screen flickered and died again and again. "Get out, Jhony! Get us out of here!" Lara cried. I tried to open the door, locked. All of them. The air grew heavy, hard to breathe. A faint crack appeared across the windshield, as if something scraped it from outside. The crack spread, tracing uneven lines, and behind it, a shadow moved. I caught only a glimpse, a pale face, hollow eyes, completely black. It moved slowly along the glass, searching for a way in. The sound that followed wasn't human. It was like crying mixed with wind, a raspy whisper coming from everywhere at once. Rick slammed his elbow into the window, nothing. Daniel kicked the door, frantic. Then, the voice returned, from the radio. "You've been here before." It came from inside the car, deep and distorted. "You never remember, but you always come back." Lara began to cry. Julia trembled, whispering prayers over and over. The ground shook. A distant sound, an engine. "Listen." I shouted. "Someone's coming." Faint lights broke through the fog, headlights. Someone was driving toward us. Hope surged through us like air after drowning. We yelled, waved, slammed our hands against the glass. But as the lights came closer, I noticed something wrong. They were too high. And they weren't moving straight. They floated, trembling in the air. And slowly, shapes appeared. Not a car, a reflection of one. The same model. The same color. And inside, us. Pale, motionless versions of ourselves, staring directly at us. Julia screamed, a sound that distorted the air. Lara covered her face, sobbing. Both cars, ours and the reflection, stopped, facing each other. For a moment, everything held still. Then the lights went out. Silence. When the fog cleared, the other car was gone. The radio hissed, and the voice returned, closer now, "You never leave the road." Something cold brushed the back of my neck. I turned, but there was nothing. Still, I could feel it, the gaze, heavy and unseen. Rick started to laugh. Not a real laugh, a desperate, cracking sound. "This isn't real," he yelled. "It's a nightmare. It has to be." Light flickered, not from outside, but from the rearview mirror. I looked. What I saw wasn't the reflection of the car. It was a dusty old room, lined with mirrors. And in each one, us. Different versions. Standing still. Expressionless. Each version of me had eyes as black as the night outside. Then, the light vanished. For a moment, it all seemed normal again. The road. The forest. The car humming softly. None of us moved. Lara spoke first. Jhony, if we get out of here, promise we'll never come back? I looked into the rearview mirror. The road behind us was empty. But deep in the fog, something still stood there. Watching. And smiling. We stayed there for a time I couldn't measure. The dashboard clock read 2:14, but the second hand wasn't moving. Outside, the fog began to shift again, slow, like breathing. Jhony, Lara whispered. What if we never left? I turned to her. Her eyes were red, but clear. She wasn't rambling, she was remembering. What do you mean? I asked. She ran her hand across the window. What if we never left this road, she said, voice trembling. What if it's always been here? Silence fell. Daniel looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw the same thought, the same fear. Before I could speak, the radio crackled. The sound of an old tape turning. Then a voice. My voice. My name is Jhony, and I need to tell you what happened to me and my friends. My heart froze. Those were my exact words, the ones I'd recorded at the start of this trip. But the sound wasn't coming from my phone. The recording went on, if anyone hears this, don't stop on this road. Don't try to turn back. They don't let you. Turn it off. Rick shouted, but the volume rose. The recording blended with whispers, twisted words, names. Julia, Lara, Daniel, Rick. And mine. Then, all the doors unlocked at once, with a metallic snap. The silence that followed felt alive. Lara's voice trembled. What do we do? I took a deep breath and opened my door. The air outside was cold, still. The fog wrapped everything, but somehow I knew I had to step out. My foot hit the ground. Solid, yet the sound was hollow, like echoing inside a tunnel. The others followed. No one spoke. No one dared look back. Then, something changed. The fog began to thin. Slowly, the outline of the road returned. Moonlight broke through the clouds, and for a moment, everything looked normal again. But as we walked, I noticed something strange. Cars. Dozens of them, old, new, rusted, lined along the road, swallowed by vines and moss. Lara approached one. She brushed her fingers over the metal. Same model. Same color. Same scratch on the door. But inside, it was empty. Almost. A cassette tape sat on the driver's seat, label written by hand, No Name Road, 2014. Daniel stepped back, shaking his head. This can't be real. Rick shouted, kicking at the ground, his voice died halfway, swallowed by the forest. I knelt and picked up the tape. For a moment, I caught my reflection in the car window. Only, it wasn't me. My reflection smiled. Then, the sound of an engine cut through the silence, our car. Its lights flickered on. The radio played that same distorted tune again, Blue Moon. Lara ran toward me. Jhony, don't look back, she screamed. Let's go. But I couldn't. Something held me there. Something familiar. I looked through the windshield and froze. We were inside. Again. Exactly as before. Julia crying. Daniel shouting. Rick gripping the wheel. And me, staring into the mirror, aware of being watched. That's when I understood. There was no way out. The road wasn't a place. It was a loop. A reflection. Every time we tried to leave, it started again. Lara pulled me back, and I fell to my knees. The fog closed in, swallowing the car and everything around it. The sound of Blue Moon faded, distant, until it vanished completely. We stood there in silence until Lara whispered, Jhony, what do we do now? I looked around. Northwest Moor Road. Only forest. And through the trees, a faint path of dirt, glowing softly, like an invitation. We keep walking, I said. Maybe this time it's different. She took my hand, and we moved forward. Behind us, the engine roared back to life. But I didn't look back. Not this time.